Well, do you want to find out how you can win this exact Colonel Wasp Firefly that I'm holding right here, this very limited edition Walcom S7 one? Well, either stick around or skip to the end of the video to find out how you can enter to win this exact blaster and do some good while you're at it. The Colonel Wasp Firefly is probably my favorite blaster of all time. It's really hard not to love this sleek, sexy, powerful, pump-action, shell-ejecting monster of a foam dart shooter. If you wanted a NERF shotgun that looks and acts like a NERF shotgun, this was your option at a very compelling $65 price point. Well, you still had to deal with shipping, and shipping is a lot more expensive now than it used to be back then. But you're getting injection molded and metal parts all over, and one of the best shotgun experiences you can get in the hobby. That only got even better when the 50 caliber foam paintballs hit the scene and we were able to shove 4 of those in a single shell, turning this thing from a slug thrower to an actual footprint double-up box shotgun. This is one of those times where shells were actually useful. This wasn't shells being an aesthetic choice that actually hindered you, but those multiple projectiles can only be accomplished through something like a shell. And I fell in love. I fell in love hard. I fell in love so hard that Monkee Mods reached out, proclaimed me as the #1 Colonel Wasp Firefly fanboy, and offered to partner with me to make my own variant, Walcom S7 branded NERF Shotgun. This is one of the few times in the entire hobby that a company has ever done this. This isn't some 3D printed with my logo engraved on it. This is an actual existing product customized to my liking for not only myself, but for all of you out there. I picked all the colors, I even picked what springs the blaster came with, and of course the ammo that it debuts with. And these things are in short supply. It is a limited run, and about 1/3 of them are already gone before I even shot this video. So chances are, don't wait too long if you're interested in picking up one of these limited edition beauties that not only gets you a super sweet NERF shotgun, but also helps the channel out, because I get a cut of the sales from this blaster, which of course I'm going to use to buy more of these, more shells, and more of their lovely new 50 caliber foam paintballs, because I want to make sure that every war I'm allowed to, I can run this shotgun and run it like no tomorrow. So I'm going to bring the camera back here, and we're going to put together the Walcom S7 X Monkee Mods Colonel Wasp Firefly, show you what the differences are between the original models and my model, and shoot lots and lots of foam out of this, because that's what she's good for. So putting this thing together is very simple, but we're gonna start with the parts. You've got the pump, you've got the shell lifter and lifter gate, you've got the actual magazine follower for the magazine tube. Here is the spring for the magazine tube. This is your catch spring. This is your catch. Trigger spring, spring for your lifter, your ejector, your ejection spring. This is the rubber sealant between the shell and your plunger rod. 2 O-rings, one for the bolt and one for the plunger rod. A variety of screws. There's like only 2 or 3 different shapes in here. This is your bolt. This is what pushes your plunger rod back and then also seals against your shell, your trigger, front barrel piece, your magazine and barrel locking piece, plunger rod, magazine tube, your barrel, piece of rubber for locking your barrel in place and keeping a seal between your receiver and your barrel, your receiver itself, plunger tube. This one will be pink in the finalized version. This is just an extra one they had laying around to get me this as fast as possible. 2 springs. You're going to have a 10 kilogram option, which is about 170 FPS with a single short dart. There is a 12 kilogram option that you can buy also if you want a little bit more power. And then the 7 kg, which is more for like 150 to 130 FPS. I haven't tested this one yet, but this is the one I'm going to be using, so we can see, hopefully, that this thing shoots about HVZ, because that's what I want this thing to do, about 130 FPS. You'll get Monkee Mods' new 50 caliber foam balls. These are, of course, the same diameter as NERF darts, and thus you can actually use them with the included shells, and you will get plenty of shells. They come in pink. I picked the colors for this thing, so if you don't like those color schemes, well, I'm sorry, but I like pink and white. You are mostly going to be working on the left-hand side of the shell, because that's where everything's going to kind of sit in place. And honestly, putting this thing together is not very hard. You can kind of tell where things go just by looking at it, but there are tools that they don't give you. For 1, screwdriver. For 2, you're going to need some kind of lubricant. For literally everything. I'm not even joking. You're going to want to lube every single surface in here because, of course, there's a lot of moving parts, and you're going to need some kind of glue to put your magazine tube in. This part right here is what goes into your receiver. You can see that it's actually cut out a little bit, but it is not a tight fit. It's about finger tight. It's going to pop off. So you're going to want to use some kind of adhesive, and that is probably going to be the hardest part about this entire thing. You can use super glue. In fact, I recommend that you use super glue. You got to use it just right, and we'll show you how. Chamfered side of your catch is the part that faces towards the plunger tube. This is some kind of fuse holder, I believe. That just fits with the prongs facing towards your plunger tube. And then you can just kind of wedge this piece in there with the spoke facing downwards. Test it, make sure it's springy, make sure it works. Trigger return spring, fit together like so. Obviously your trigger should be able to interact with your whole system here. Make sure that it moves. If it's a little bit tight, you can sand it, or you can just lubricate the crap out of it. Your bolt here, just take one of the O-rings, plop it on there. It's going to be a little bit loose, but you can kind of finagle it into place. Go ahead and grab some lubricant and lube this entire surface over here. That is what's going to seal inside your barrel and deliver your airflow. Lubricate your entire plunger tube. Make sure that all works. This is a part we're going to put in towards the end, but we can put the O-ring on our plunger rod here, and again, lube that up very liberally. There, make sure it's not, the O-ring isn't all bunched up. This is like your lifter gate kind of piece. This part will engage with your bolt and engage with your magazine tube. Fits right in there like so, super easy. And just like everything else, make sure you put a lot of lubrication on it, because this is a part that's going to mesh and move constantly. This is a part you don't really have to mess with too much. You just kind of pop it in there like that. You'll most likely have to remove that piece several times, but that's what holds your barrels on. This part you might actually want a hammer for, but this black piece needs to fit into this white piece right here. The first part, probably not going to be too much of an issue. Tapping it with a hammer will certainly make it easier. And then there is one more ribbing you want to try to pop down. Take your follower. Here's the side, obviously, that meshes with your receiver up here. Put your follower in there. Make sure it moves practically flawlessly. Here is your lifter. The two prongs right here, the flat side, going to go into your blaster like this. These prongs are going to let a shell go through but not come back out. And just like with the other pieces, lube the pegs and lube basically every single face. And that we have our follower nice and set in there. Should fall freely. That way, now we can glue the side of this and make sure that we don't glue the follower. And super glue will work fine unless you try to do something silly like jam and force a shell that shouldn't be in there. I'm going to take the edge of the screwdriver and just kind of lightly scratch up the metal here. It won't be seen or anything like that. That will give our super glue something to bite into. We want it to be pretty much permanent, but if we really have to, because if something goes wrong, we want to be able to remove it. Go ahead and use our screwdriver to scratch up the inside of that. You can tell which side is which because the actual barrel is going to have that ribbing inside of it, which the magazine tube will not. Still fits together just fine. Make sure our follower still moves around just fine. And now we're just going to put a little bit of super glue. You can, in fact, use too much, so make sure you spread it out as thin as possible. You do not want too much spillage. You want to make sure that that follower can move perfectly inside your magazine tube. And if you can, use a little bit of accelerant. Let that seep down in there. But from there, nothing on our follower. Magazine tube should stay in place. Barrel with a little bit of the chamfer on it, not the long piece, but a little bit of right there. That is what we're going to put that on like that. And then just jam that up in there. And then this is another part you'll probably want a hammer for. But we're going to put in this piece, and this should lock it all together. Make sure your magazine springs and caught between the tube and the piece of plastic. A little bit of a rough edge. I'm trying to clean up. Make sure your follower moves. Should be perfectly fine. So your bolt is going to have a spot for your extractor to fit in like so, and the smallest self-tapping chamfered screw is the one that's going to hold that in place. However, make sure you put your extractor spring on top of that. This is the piece that will force itself over the rim of the shell, and then that way, as you're working the action, it will grab your shell and pull it out, hence it being the extractor. I would also take this time, lubricate every face of the bolt. Anywhere it's going to be touching plastic, which is basically everywhere. Smoother this system is, the better it's going to feel. The little rubber O-ring piece is going to just friction fit into the front of your bolt. You can tack that with super glue if you want to, because it does happen to come undone if you dry fire the blaster. And then last, we need the spring for the entire lifter mechanism, which is a little bit of a difficult part to fit in. But basically, there's a little spot for the hook to bite in right here. And then you're going to pull that down, and you're going to put the lifter on it. That is going to provide spring tension for your whole lifting. You might think I'm joking about lubing every single face of this blaster where all the moving parts are, but I am not. Definitely make sure everything is nice and well lubed. This is how your entire ejection mechanism should look. That should be applying pressure to that. Make sure that your follower moves freely. There's your extractor right there. Everything's good to go. The last part of this is going to be fitting your spring in there. And I hate to say it, but there's no easy way of doing this. Just go slow, be careful, and be ready to mash both of these shell halves together. Incredibly simple thing once you get it together. That's where everything starts falling apart. Kind of hold that down. Just like that. And this is my first time seeing this thing together, and that makes me happy. That looks really, really good. This bar is, I believe, steel. This is your priming rod. Screw positions are pretty self-explanatory. Kind of goes in like that. The only thing is the edges here are pretty sharp. You don't have to, but I would definitely try to sand this down just a little bit because they do tend to dig into the shell, and that could make your priming not as smooth as it should be. So I just take the bottom side, the part that's going to be pressing against the blaster itself, and just sand this down. Get rid of as many of those sharp edges as you can. Pump grip, kind of going like that. You'll have screws for that, but the side that's important is right there. And it works exactly how you think it does, and that's what these 4 countersunk screws are for. 2 in the rear here to connect to your bolt, and then of course, and then 2 into your pump grip. You want to make sure that these screws are pretty snug, because any slop in this linkage is going to be wasted energy when priming your blaster. And with that, grab our shells, prime it back, drop one in there, chamber that forward, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And 5 is the max that this size of magazine tube will hold, but That easy. Now we load it up and have some fun. All right, starting with the pretty pink Walcom Edition. This one has the weakest spring at 7 kilograms. Let's see what it hits with a standard short dart. 132, that's pretty darn close to what I was looking for. HVZ might say that's too much. They might say that's too much. I'm not sure if they would give you a pass on 2 FPS or not, but that's pretty close. Up next, same shells, same darts, in the new standard Monkee Mods edition, this one being orange. This one does have some 3D printed upgrades, but they don't affect performance. And this one does have a scar barrel at the end of it that I can't currently remove. So that may drop performance ever so slightly. This one's running a 10 kilogram spring. And yep, that's about what you'd expect for 10 kilograms. It's a very nice light prime. It's not so heavy that you can't use it. The other one was pathetically easy, and yet it's still rather powerful. Maybe not so good for the short darts, but when it comes to the buckshot rounds, that's going to be really useful. And finally, the original version with the, oh, that's a much heavier prime. With, I believe this was a 12 kilogram spring, much harder to prime, should shoot much harder. Ugh. And yeah, nearly 200 FPS. You can probably kiss over that 200 FPS if I relubed this thing. Much harder hitting, but of course, much harder to prime. All right, so this one hits around 130. It needs to hit reliably under it for that to be considered HVZ safe. So you may have to play around with the scar barrel, the type of dart. Maybe a little bit of a worn dart will do a little bit better at hitting a little bit less. I'm not quite sure. That's definitely something I want to explore at another time, but it's hitting close enough that, yeah, you can probably say that spring is the HVZ spring, which is cool. But that was with a single shot. This time, we're going to test it at 130 FPS, but with the buckshot rounds. These are new rounds that Monkee Mod has made that mimic the Vulcan rounds that we know and love. However, those Vulcan rounds disappeared, and Monkee Mod's found a way to make basically miniature rifle rounds. 50 caliber rifle. And we're going to see how that works out of 130 FPS. That's about 20 feet away, so hopefully we get a decent spread and we get decent range. That seemed like 1 wad. Still quite seemed like 1 wad. I'm amazed at how hard these things are hitting, all things considered. So it seems like we're just slightly too close to really see these rounds fly, like, spread out at a comfortable distance. I'm absolutely amazed how hard these things hit. But we also did that without a scar barrel, and that twisting may help us get a little bit better spread going on. Gonna put a standard worker scar barrel on there. Let's see if this helps. We just may be slightly too close. I'm not quite sure. Let's find out. There we go. That gave it a nice fanning appearance. Much better. So, Brain was telling me that Scar Barrel would make that worse. That made it a heck of a lot better. So, it does not come with a Scar Barrel, but even at 130 FPS, you may want to put one on. That was fantastic. And now, I think we just have some fun with some short darts, because that's one of the main ammo types this thing shoots. What's going on there? There we go. See how accurate I can be essentially hip firing. Oh no. Can I even hit the... Very close. Oh, I guess it just hit ready. Well, I'm standing by, but I'm literally out of ammo now. All right, well, let's see how good the actual accuracy is hip firing. Not that we're very far away at all, but I'm out of ammo again. Would be nice if I had an optic, but you get it. Scar barrel, definitely improvement. Just wish I had something I could actually aim with on this thing. All right, so this is the one that Monkee Mods had a pre-order for that then sold out, and they're getting more in. But I've done some modifications, so this is identical to the Walcom one. It's gonna come with different things. It's not gonna come with extra springs or anything like that. And also I 3D printed a bunch of stuff for it to show off what the community can do. So this is not 3D printed. This is a worker folding stock, one they've had for quite some time. The stock attachment point on every single Firefly is not quite NERF. Your mileage will vary. Be careful, because I have hammered some stocks on and they just never come off, and I've hammered some stocks on and broke them. I don't know which ones are which, but I can verify that this one I have right here works fine. This is a shell holder designed by Foxfire Industries. Absolutely wonderful. It's normally on some kind of big saddle back here, which I hated. I just super glued mine to the side of the blaster. It works fine. This is a match saver by Ansulogist. That basically is so if you are empty and you have nothing else, you can just easily shuck that shell in there, prime it forward, and saves your match. And then this is the priming foregrip by Worst Werfer, or Fet Worst, I'm not quite sure which, but man, is it a huge upgrade from the original. It is very comfortable, and it makes priming even the 10 kilogram spring in this thing practically nothing. So, we're gonna see here if I can't finish off this match with what shells I have in here. Ooh. Got one that came out funky. Gonna happen with shell-fed things, that's for sure. Hopefully that's okay. Well. Well, that didn't pan out, but the reason why you have the shell holder on the side is because it makes reloading a heck of a lot easier. I get another one? Maybe I'm priming it too fast, I'm not quite certain. Or maybe my barrel came forward. That is another reason. Doing diagnosis here. Kind of figured this blaster out. So freaking close. I've got 2 targets left, and I've got technically 3 shells. Well, I tried. The Walcom S7 version comes with a spring that's inside this one, and of course the 7 kilogram, which is supposed to be the HVZ spring, and it's nearly there. This is a really weird video for me to make. I mean, I've done plenty of videos on the Firefly. I've loved it since the very beginning, and the fact that this one exists, and there's a limited number of them that you can purchase, and like I said, before we even uploaded this video here, over 1/3 of them have already been sold. So if you're thinking about getting one, I wouldn't wait. They're supposed to start shipping next week. Most of them should be out by the end of the month. They come in a custom packaging and everything that's Walcom S7 branded, with a little walrus here that was drawn by Slaedur. And it's wild, man. I would have never expected something like this, but Monkee Mods came out swinging, and I can't thank them enough, because I love the Firefly, and the fact that we can have one out there like this, just a dream come true. I mean, the fact that we can get more 50 cal foam balls, I mean, that's all freaking astonishing stuff that makes this blaster just incredible. It's just amazingly fun. And the fun doesn't stop there, because not only do we have all the parts that I already showed you that came out for this thing that you can find on Thingiverse, Monkee Mods themselves are producing parts, and then of course there's parts that are coming out that are developed by Shangyi, which you can convert it into a magazine-fed shell ejecting pump action shotgun. I don't know what you want me to say. And there's a drum coming. I don't know if the drum will be a thing that they will actually produce. I don't know if it'll have problems or not, but there's a drum. I'm really hoping that comes out. I'm hoping to get my hands on this kit sometime in the future, because I love the Firefly. I'm a huge Colonel Wasp Firefly fanboy, and the fact that this thing exists blows my dang mind. And if you want to get your hands on this exact one right here, which I believe is the first one in the country, and it will be the only one of these that is ever signed by me, well, check out Clowny's toy drive. I will have the links to all that stuff down in the description. He has a video explaining all the rules on how to enter and everything like that, and you can win this thing signed by me with the other spring, the shells, the foam paintballs. I'll even throw in some darts and everything. Field tested by me, everything's good to go. My original one right here, I am giving away. And I will have to wait and get my hands on another one. So I hope you guys appreciate that. Last year, Clowny's Toy Drive didn't have a very good turnout, so I mean, if nobody enters, you have a good chance of winning, and it's really easy to enter, although it is limited to US audiences only. And Slaedur, I am really hoping you enjoy the fact that your little walrus is now literally the mascot for this channel, next to the other mascot you made for the channel. My entire online identity is almost because of you. Links to everything down in the description below. I'm humbled how 2021 has been one heck of a year, and I'm glad we're trying to end it on a bang with something so freaking cool. I wish everybody who wants to get one of these can get their hands on one. I'm Walcom S7. Thank you very much for getting me this far. Thank you very much for supporting the channel to get to this point. And thank you very much to Monkee Mods for making this thing happen, because it wouldn't have happened without all you guys out there. I don't even know what to say. I am beyond humbled, and I'm excited to see what the future brings. Hopefully we can keep this up. Maybe we can make an official Walcom S7 pistol to go with the shotgun. That'd be pretty rad. I'm Walcom S7. Thank you very much for watching this video. Chances are if you got to the end, you like what I do here, so please hit like, get subscribed, ring the bell, leave a comment, do all the algorithmic garbage to help the channel grow so you can help the hobby grow. And of course, I hope to see you in an entirely different video.
You gotta up,